Good morning, everyone. It's a nice, cool December morning. We've been talking about Christmas time and everybody having a good time. But we don't want to get distracted from what God wants us to do and the things going on in the world. There's still a war going on right now that Israel's fighting. They've lost some soldiers recently, so that's not a good Christmas for them. And it appears that the people in Gaza have been brainwashed enough that they don't like Israel in there fighting for them. And we don't want to get off track too and forgetting that we still have a rapture coming sometime. This is the public area down here. There's a board over here that has a bunch of information on it. So if you come down here, you can find it. It talks about all the stuff. There's a map there, of course. There's eagles. Here come our crows again. They're following me. Yeah, it's cold, but you can dress warm for it. You don't have to sleep in a tent. You can just come out and picnic. Enjoy it while you can, because eventually it's going to be taken away from us to be replaced by a better world, but we have to give up this one. I don't know if I can get into my chair over here, my swing. The sun's going to be behind me. So I guess I'm going to focus a little bit on this video about looking at the rapture. We again don't know when, but it is tied to the events that are going on right now around us. There's the sun. So let me stop the video here and I'll see if I can get over and get my seat and look at a couple of scriptures here. See you in a bit. Hey, I was going to try to stay down there at the swing. There's a little puddle where my feet would go, and I decided not to risk it. So I'm back at my campsite. There's nobody here, so it's quiet. They've done all their tree cutting yesterday or the day before. So anyhow, I'm going to show you a picture of, I've had probably 2 or 3 mice eat their way into my tent looking for food. One day they found some. I left a couple of old pieces of bread, stale bread out. I was going to go feed them to the birds, but the mice got in there first, nibbled on it, and now they think it's a smorgasbord, so they come back. And they've been back 3 times, and they've made new holes each time. It's like, come on, guys. You know, the mice on the cartoons, they're real smart. You guys are dumb. Okay, and I don't want to patch the holes until I catch them, so I've got 2 traps out. We're looking to try to catch them. We'll do the catch and release first. If that doesn't work, old-fashioned mouse traps. Okay, their holes are high, so they're underneath the canopy and they're underneath the tarp on the one end, so I'm not getting any rain in, and we're supposed to get some rain this weekend. Okay, so the warning I've got is for people not to fall into the trap of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the religious leaders of Jesus' day. He didn't care much for them because they had turned his loving kindness into a burden that nobody could bear. No one was going to ever get to heaven based on the way these scribes and Pharisees were doing. And of course, they got lots of attention on earth. But they weren't going to get to heaven either because they were not following their own rules. We see that. So let's turn to Matthew 23. I'm reading directly out of the Bible, so now I've got to put my glasses on. If I can do it on the computer, I can use the big letters. Okay, verse 1 of Matthew 23. Then Jesus spoke to the multitudes and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. They've inherited his law, and they've changed it. Therefore, whatever they tell you to observe, that you should observe and do, but do not do according to their works, for they say and they do not do. For they bind heavy burdens, hard to bear, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move with one of their fingers. They've interpreted these rules. As I mentioned before, they have the Talmud and the Mishnah, which are commentaries to go with the Old Testament. And the scribes and the Pharisees, the religious leaders throughout the ages, have commented on it. And it became a prestigious thing that if you comment on it, especially if it was somewhat controversial, then you'd be known, you'd be remembered forever. So people took this on and they will be remembered, but not in heaven. Okay. But all their works they do are to be seen by men. Don't be doing your works to be seen by men. Well, obviously, if you're helping men, you've got to do it so they can see it. But that isn't the motive. Is to be seen by God, appreciated by God, accepted by God. That's why you shouldn't do anything of your own accord. Don't do anything. If you're a Christian, you need to be checking in with God through Jesus every day. Get permission, get your marching orders. And don't say, today I'm going to do this and today I'm going to do that. Say, if the Lord willing, I'm going to do this and that. I'm quoting out of the Bible when I'm saying stuff like that. You can look them up. It's on Google. They haven't totally destroyed it yet. They will. Okay. They make their phylacteries broad, those big display boxes, so you can see that they're wearing them. The sun's kind of bright where it's at right now, and it keeps going in and out. There's a whole bunch of trees, and every time it moves, it's surprising how fast the sun's moving when you've got something to compare it with. When it's out in the open sky, you can't tell it's moving, but when it's got trees and it's going like this, you can see it moving. Okay. And they enlarged the borders on their garments. They wore tassels and stuff, and they had, decorative things on there, but they would make them more bold so they could draw attention to themselves. They loved the best places at feast, the best seats in the synagogue, greetings in the marketplace, and to be called by men, Rabbi, Rabbi, teacher, teacher. But you do not be called Rabbi, for one is your teacher, Christ. And you are all brethren. Do not call anyone on earth your father, for no one is your father, he who is in heaven is. And do not be called teacher, for one is your teacher, the Christ. But he who is the greatest among you shall be your servant. Jesus demonstrated this time and time again, like when he washed the disciples' feet. And whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. But woe to the scribes and the Pharisees, hypocrites! For you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men, for you neither go in yourself, nor do you allow those who are entering to go in. You put up all these roadblocks. Nobody can get to heaven, especially you, if you're doing what the scribes and the Pharisees do. lovingly help people. Help people, not yourself. Let God deal with that. If you never get one accolade from anyone on earth your entire life, but you're doing good with your life, God will take care of all that in time. If you're rewarded down here, that's your reward. Wait till you get your reward in heaven. Well, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, for you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites, for you devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayers. Therefore you will receive a greater condemnation. 3 times he says, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees. Woe to you, blind guides, who say, whoever swears by the temple, it is nothing, but whoever swears by the gold in the temple, he is obliged to perform it. Fools and blind. For which is greater, the gold in the temple, that which sacrifices the gold, or the temple that sacrifices the gold? And whoever swears by the altar, it is nothing, but whoever swears by the gift that is on it, he is obliged to perform it. Remember where the power is. It's in God through Jesus. The temple, the ark, tools to get to them. That's all. Fools and blind, for which is greater, the gift or the altar? Therefore he who swears by the altar swears by it, and by all things on it. He who swears by the temple swears by it, and by him who dwells in it. And he who swears by heaven swears by the throne of God, and by him who sits on it. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the law: justice, mercy, and faith. These you ought to have done without leaving the others undone, blind guides who strain out the gnat and swallow the camel. Imagery of the day. Again, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you cleanse out the outside of the cup and the dish, but inside they are full of extortion and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisee, first cleanse the inside of the cup and dish, then the outside may be clean also. Priorities. What are your priorities? Why are you doing what you're doing? If you're being a servant, then you are not the master. God is, and he wants us all to be servants. Here we go. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, which indeed appear beautiful outwardly, but inside they are full of dead men's bones and all uncleanliness. Whitewashed tombs, sepulchres as they would call them. Even so you outwardly appear righteous to men, but inside you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Again, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you build the tombs of the prophets and adorn the monuments of the righteous. And you say, if we had lived in those days of our fathers, we would not have been partakers with them in the blood of the prophets. They think they wouldn't sin. They know better. They don't sin now. Blind hypocrites. This is Jesus talking. This is all red letter stuff. He is coming down hard on the religious leaders. And we have religious leaders today that do the same thing. It's an occasional thing where a good pastor can get off track, get distracted, but come right back. These guys have been doing this for so long. They were perfect at it. They were perfectionists against being blind hypocrites. Therefore you are witnesses against yourselves that you are sons of those who murdered the prophets. Fill up then the measure of your father's guilt, serpent's blood of vipers. How can you escape the condemnation of hell? Therefore indeed I send you prophets, wise men, scribes. Some of them will kill and crucify, and some of them will scourge in the synagogues and persecute from city to city, that you may come all the righteous bloodshed on the earth. From you may come, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. Assuredly I say to you, all those things will come upon this generation. And then to finish it up, Jesus approaching town. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the one who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing. See, your house is left to you desolate, for I say to you, you shall see me no more until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Once the nation of Israel says that, Jesus will return for them. He's coming for us at some point, but we don't know when. We just have to be ready and not be like the scribes and the Pharisees and all the religious leaders who don't know what they're teaching. Start your day with God, end your day with God, and do everything during the day for God. And don't boast about it. Don't even tell people about it. If somebody sees you doing it, that's fine. But don't go around. They would sound a trumpet before they would pray to draw the crowd in so that everybody could see him praying. I'm praying right now, all the time. In my head, I don't have to bring it public. I might ask you to pray for something sometimes, but, pray for my mice problem. Pray for my son and myself, and that we can continue to do this as long as we need to. It helps to add names on the list going to God. Dear God, here's this list of people want prayers for Larry and his ministry. Can't help, can't hurt, But God will do what needs to be done, even if it's only one prayer. Especially from one of his own. Okay. Try to enjoy this time of year. If you're alone, try to find some way not to be. Go to church. If you don't like the church, pick another one. Maybe what they're missing is you. Get out of the house. Or invite people over. If you've got family that can come over, invite them over. Make it potluck if you don't want to cook a big meal. Order KFC or Domino's. It doesn't matter. It's a celebration. Blessings, everyone. Well, this is the sunny side of my tent. I put this up so I can look at my laptop and not have the sun hitting me. But it's also working out as a way to protect that little rat hole. They tore a hole in my tent in a number of places. Fortunately, that one's where I can get to it and cover it up, and it's underneath the tarp. There's a number of holes up underneath. There's one there going through the mesh on top. So I'm trying to catch the little critters and take them someplace else. This side's okay. It's going to rain this weekend, so I'm not worried about the water coming in, but I like to catch them because they only come out when the weather's nice. Because the sun is right up there and it's bright, so I can't work inside. I'm the only one here right now. There is one other campsite that's currently occupied, but the guy's leaving tomorrow, and he just uses it for work. There's somebody else coming in. I don't know who they are yet. We'll find out when they get here. It's kind of eerie at night, but you get used to it. Pine trees stop right over there. You can see the green. These are all hardwoods. But I have to be over here so I can put my antenna out over there on that side. All right, have a blessed day, everybody.